Hi, I am Ron Bennington, and this is Unmasked with Tim and Eric today. It is the 10-year anniversary of their show, so they are doing the Tim and Eric 10-year anniversary awesome tour all around the country. Keep an eye out for it because it is selling out as quickly as they're putting up dates. First of all, I can't believe it's been 10 years of Tim and Eric, but I would also have to admit I underestimated these guys when they first came on the scene because obviously I thought that they were funny, but I did not get the fact of how big that they were going to be and what an influence on comedy that they would have, because you can see it reached out in all areas now of comedy and even advertising and filmmaking. 10 years. And they've got a very, very interesting partnership because they do stuff together and they do stuff apart. But from a creative point of view, they've just done a mountain of projects that they've either acted in, recorded music, produced for other people. It's really, really an amazing creative story. So this is very, very cool. So glad to be here. I'm Ron Bennington, and this is Unmasked with Tim and Eric.
What an intimate setting.
Yes, it is. Pretty cool, right?
I like it, yeah.
Good to see you guys.
A lot of eye contact is going to happen right about now.
So close.
Well, it's good to see you guys. And this is the 10-year anniversary.
Of something, yes.
And you have something, and you're doing a tour, which is, would you even picture, like 10 years ago when you first pulled this off, that it still would have the same kind of frenzy?
Yes.
Yes.
We were very clear about that. We had a vision.
We called him Nostradamus.
Well, it is always a long shot that anything you do will find any audience, and then an audience that sticks. That's crazy.
I know. We sincerely can't believe we get to do what we do every day.
Yeah, we did yesterday we played our third sold out night in New York, which was totally, and Tim and I started doing performances in New York to 13 people in the basement knitting factory. We're like, this is a big show. We have all of our friends are here.
So now we're in the same place, but 3 nights of that. So
Where did you play in New York?
Town Hall.
Town Hall, which is
prestigious.
Yes, when you think of the
Legendary.
people that have played Town Hall.
Oh, it was on my mind.
Yeah.
As I was spitting hot dog parts out into the audience.
Well, that's the other thing is you guys both have a music background as well, so you get to understand that there's some theaters that you're playing that have, true history.
Yeah, and like acoustics. This Town Hall was just beautiful. We played Portland, Maine was our first spot, and it was just like a.
Oh boy, big news. Doug, okay, we're good.
Always looked to see if the show's canceled.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Only 13 tickets sold.
Yeah. Sold out. No, it's just some rooms just have that energy that that amazing things have happened there. We used to play the Best Buy Theater in Times Square, and our fans and friends would say, this is the worst environment I've ever been in my life, which kind of works for Tim and Eric, our aesthetic, but they're like,
to go
please
down
don't.
4 flights of escalators to get to this black
Because it was a
box.
it was a movie theater for years,
Yeah.
and then they're like, no, it's a live performance theater.
Yeah.
You're like,
The
really?
energy was off. It's just rotten.
But the thing that I think that has changed in the last 10 years is that the style that you guys brought to this has now moved out, and I'm seeing it in comedy other places and Madison Avenue. And is that like a good feeling, or what the fuck is this thing?
We always laugh at it when we see Saturday Night Live or someone do it. We laugh because we know our fans are so devoted that within one day they're gonna light up Twitter and be like, "You can't do that. Tim and Eric did that first." That's how wonderful our fan base is. But
the other thing is, we were doing our show last night, and there's a part of the show that's a video element that is kind of new for the audience, and Eric and I were downstairs changing, and we hear it playing upstairs, and Eric's like, he looks at me, he's like, nobody else is doing this.
Yeah.
What's going on up there? Nobody is. People are trying to do variations of it or putting the video effects on it or stuff, but the actual like the depth to which we're going still. Not to sound like a bloated asshole, but I'm bloated. But it did feel like, even though there's, people are taking cues from our style, we're still doing. We feel like there's not a lot of people doing the kind of comedy we're doing.
We want people to use our style and do something else. We were huge fans of Monty Python and Mr. Show, and we did take a lot of their aesthetics and their and adopt it to our vision. But we're hoping for kids to just freak the fuck out even more.
Yeah, well, I thought about that. Like, in 10 years, a lot of the young writers probably grew up on your show because they love to have people that are, 22, 23 years old on SNL. And they probably just think of what you do as comedy, not the way everyone felt when they first saw you guys. Like, is this comedy?
Yeah, we were not considered part of the collective comic world. We were never listed with the greats.
Well, it's always hard, I think, for an audience and particularly critics if they go, "Hey, is the joke on me here? Are these guys making fun of me viewing this?"
Yeah,
and that is part of what was followed you guys for a couple of years. But you've done so many projects now that it's ridiculous how many projects you guys have done in the last 10 years. Yeah. But you also had the thing of we'll sometimes go separately. And that's really unusual because most teams break up and do things. Did you guys think about that fairly early on of that this would be good for you to do stuff separately?
No, we sort of look at it as like a relationship that, you need a little space every once in a while. We've been like good friends for 20 years. We just started doing this professionally for 10 years ago. And at first, I think we were just taking any job we could get, which is Tom Goes the Mayor, awesome show. And then we, with the popularity of that, we got opportunities to do other things.
Yeah, I think we put so much of our own selves into Tim and Eric that it was very much just, it could be a little stifling if that's all there is in your life. You're sort of sharing this experience with another guy, and so to have those little pressure valve outlets to do your own thing, and because also a lot of the stuff that Eric and I do together, it's very, even though it seems crazy and random and all that stuff, it can be very strict in what it can, what the borders of what it is are. So, there's interests that I have and interests that he has that don't fit into that paradigm. So, but then, this year has been very busy for the two of us making stuff together, and that's continues to be fun too. So, the pace at which it comes might not be as frenetic and insane as it was when we were in our 30s and 20s, but I think there's still stuff we want to do together that will be interesting to see.
Well, I think what's great is if you only work together, then you're trying to top it or make it bigger. Did this draw more? The numbers there. But when you do other things, you can go, this is something that doesn't have to be gigantic. This could just be something cool. That's punk rock right from the beginning.
Yeah. I was thinking about this today. I love building things. I like starting new projects, and some stuff. Then there's building projects and there's maintaining projects.
Yeah. And
so I was like, if we're into like a third or fourth season of something, then you get that itch to be like, this isn't fun. This is not as fun as making something fresh.
Right.
So let's destroy the tower and build it fresh again.
Maintaining is never a fun thing to do. It's always the startup process is where you can really be. But even if you look at somebody like Letterman, if I tried to explain to a young person what it was like seeing the top 10 list in the 80s as opposed to the 2000s, he was really into it. But now it's like, I got to do the top 10 list every night. You could give a shit. You saw it there. I was talking to Eric a little bit. I'm from Delaware County. So that thing you guys went to Temple, there is something so unique to that part of the world. It's something so kind of cynical. And almost like if you ever watch Rocky, where like people are like, you can't do it. That really is Philadelphia more than anything
There's
else.
no support. There's no love. There's no compassion.
Yeah.
And that's, one of the reasons Tim and I do other projects is I think we grew up as hustlers in film school. We went to North Philly, which is like you had to protect yourself when you walked out of the film class to not get robbed to go to your apartment. Like that's literally what life was like. So now we're like, we hustle. We moved to LA. We're like, we can do a production company, and now we have a production company, or we could make music or whatever. We kind of just like grab it because Philly it kind of trains you for that.
Yeah, you have to do it yourself in Philly.
Yeah, no one's going to do it for you.
Yeah. But Temple is where you guys went, which is true that if you leave there for lunch, you could get beat up in a heartbeat. There's not a lot of...
Certainly in the years we were there in the 90s.
Yeah. And, of course, they're the person that they love most, Bill Cosby.
Of course.
So
he continues to be one of my inspirations and idols. So much respect for him inside and outside entertainment. I'm glad everyone's laughing because some people are going to listen and go,
yeah.
What does he mean by that?
But isn't that ironic that you grew up in that shadow of Bill Cosby?
I mean, I don't look at it as a shadow. Maybe a coincidence or just another series of facts.
Yeah.
We also lived in the same dorm as Hall & Oates.
Yes.
And those guys have not had any kind of legal issues with
No,
women,
not
I
at
don't
all.
think so.
But also, they also work apart and together. They just, at a certain point, go, hey, all of our hits are back there. Let's get together and do the hits, but do projects separately. And Daryl does that show out of his house where he just brings bands in.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. And I don't know if he's looking to do anything gigantic with it, but it's great. Great music.
I'll be checking that out after
Yeah.
their show today.
Yeah.
No, I've seen it. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, we have not doing Awesome Show for 6 years or something, getting back together this year and making some video elements and bringing back characters on this tour was fun. We often contemplated, can we fit into these spandex suits again and do the stuff that we were mentally thinking about 10 years ago, and we realized we still have that energy and that focus. It hasn't left yet.
Well, there's also not a lot of comedy teams that have made it when you really think about it in the course. And I don't know what it is, the difficulty of keeping it together, but it's a very, very short list of people that you think, they're even remembered to this day.
We have this thing in our live tour that when you're being seated, we have this slideshow of the top comedy duos over and it's like, what's the best comedy duo, and it's like Laurel and Hardy, and we have an X over it. Mork and Mindy X over it, and then we have Bob and David
From Mr.
Mr. Show, and then we do an X, and then we put ourselves, and there's a big check mark. And the other night, Bob Odenkirk, who kind of helped make us, was in the crowd watching that loop over and over, and he loved it.
Yeah.
He thought it was really funny.
He's done well.
He's doing well right now.
He's doing well right now.
He's having his moment.
Yeah.
Which is so fun for us to watch, actually, because when he discovered us, which is the right way to say it, he did, and we came out to LA, he was really in a place of finding out what he was going to be doing, and he was pitching and trying to get shows made and directing, and he was really in an interesting place that took a while to figure out, and then obviously now it's just so funny. We were talking to him after the show, and he was doing this movie with Steven Spielberg, and it was just so cool to see him kind of saying nice things about the experience, but how he's just acknowledging it as how crazy it is.
Yeah.
Just I'm doing a movie with Spielberg. It's crazy.
But that is the thing about this business, and you don't realize it when you're young, is no matter who you are, you have to be relentless, you know? So there's Odenkirk. If somebody could have told me years ago, just give him money and a lot more money, it would have been an easy call for me.
Right.
But people turned him down for projects for many, many years.
Yeah. As they should have.
How long was it of you guys being at film school together, making these videos before you're like, yeah, would like somebody to see this. We would like the world to check this out.
It really wasn't until after college. I think we were off doing separate things, and we would do videos together sort of recreationally, just for get together on the weekend and make a little project, give ourselves a little something to do, just come more from a artsy fartsy place than a comedy place.
Yeah, I remember shooting a bar mitzvah where kids, I was a videographer before we moved to LA, and kids were throwing M&Ms at my head while I was filming them, and I was like, this is really bad. And I remember texting Tim, I was like, we got to work on that DVD, man. We got to get out of this scene.
But we were always making music and projects and putting physical things together, like records or things. And so a video, like a video cassette, VHS kind of with a cover and everything, was like, once we had amassed some like 5 videos, 10 minutes worth of material, we were making videotapes and like giving it to our friends as Christmas presents and stuff.
But the fact that you met in film school, I'm going to guess that the other students' heads must have been somewhere fairly different from what you guys were up
Pretty
to.
much, yeah.
Yeah, we were like fully the outcasts. We were also like making fun of them the whole time. We would make weird projects to like make fun of them, but they were very well done. Like we took a lot of time and made them, and we got like A's. But we just rejected the way that they were teaching. They were not preparing us for anything. It was very like kind of documentary theory,
social conscience.
We were like, we need to like work. Like we want to work.
Yeah, but also comedy wasn't really in our heads either. We didn't consider comedy something we were going to do. We were just like making stuff. We were making stuff that we thought was funny a lot of the time, but comedy was like in another category. Like that comedy meant like Jerry Seinfeld, not in a bad way, but in our minds, not where our heads were at. As like filmmakers.
Yeah, we could never do that on our own with my dad's video camera.
Well, were there influences? Were there things that you guys said, all right, there's somebody who's doing something that's cool?
Well, when, Christopher Guest's, like, Waiting for Guffman came out, that was, like, the best thing we'd ever seen. And just weird stuff like David Byrne's movie, the True Stories.
Yeah.
We'd watch that a lot. Mr. Show, when we saw that, we're like, this is verging closer to, like, where our sensibility is at, and it's on HBO. So it felt like that was something to shoot for.
Yeah, we used to get these videos. This was one guy in Philly named Cotton Candy, and he was a bootlegger. He would go to the shows and videotape bands illegally and sell them. He was a part of this network of VHS guys, and he would send us like cool concerts like Jane's Addiction, and on the end he would always include like 3 random weird cable access moments,
right?
Or like James Brown on the news when he like was fully high or some weird thing.
Yeah.
And we would look forward to those moments so much that we were like, whoa, and those things really inspired us. And we were like, ooh, we got to start collecting all these weird things before YouTube. Like these things were like gold, these little.
And Philly has always had a tradition of their own kind of local celebrities as well. There would just be adults showing cartoons.
Yeah, it was Al Albert's. Do you know Al Albert's?
Yes.
Al Albert's children's showcase, and it would be on at like 8 in the morning on Saturdays or something, and it would look like they just took a big black curtain and put it over the news set, so it was just this black void, and then he'd be in a tuxedo and he'd have these like 6-year-olds come and like tell jokes. But it would be very strange. You know, it was right on the verge of something inappropriate was happening. Go ahead, tell the joke again. Tell the joke. And, be real quiet. And it was
he would also sometimes
strange.
ask for a kiss or a hug.
Yeah.
And but his thing was he was the guy that they said Andrea McArdle, who was the first Annie on Broadway, did that. So he was telling children 30, 40 years after that, like you could be.
Right.
And there's no way for them to know what that meant.
Yeah. He's the kingmaker on Broadway.
We redid some of that for the Awesome Show. We had is it called Child's Showcase or
Something like that, yeah.
But I mean, we did Rainn Wilson and Patton Oswalt. We made them look like kids.
Shrunk them
They
down.
kind of sang inappropriate songs. There's one creepy host.
Well, we promised some of these people they could ask you questions.
I didn't agree to that.
I know you didn't. I know you didn't. That's why this is a trap, this entire show.
The first question is from Colin.
Hey there.
Hi,
Big fan of the show.
Thank you very much.
you guys have had a lot of characters on over the years, a lot of like folks you brought onto the show that had reoccurring bits. How did you balance like bringing them on, giving them direction by like having these character names or the kind of ridiculous things they would have to say without being like patronizing?
Well, I wouldn't say we were never not patronizing. I don't know. It's always been a fun experience bringing people in and talking to them and making them feel comfortable and at the same time like directing them, telling them what to say, feeding them things.
Yeah, a lot of it is this is a comedy show, but we need you to act dramatically. It might not make sense, but you have to trust us, and so that's when you get like really bizarre performances.
There really, right from the beginning, was a tone, and the tone has always felt to me like not quite professional.
Yeah.
So you're taking professional people and asking them to be not quite.
Sometimes we just take unprofessional people.
Yes.
And then we shoot a lot of footage, and and there's a few professionals, John C. Reilly and Will Forte and people like that we just love and know, and they can dial in that sort of amateur, or they can just dial in a character that works in the context of our world. But yeah, we're just like, we're looking for moments when like the person accidentally looks in the camera, or so we just shoot a lot generally, and then we find the moments that feel like get closest to like that local TV commercial from Allentown, Pennsylvania, where it's like the carpet salesman who's not supposed to be on TV. You know?
Yeah, in Los Angeles, it's beautiful. You can load up this thing called lacasting.com, and it's anyone who wants to submit a headshot is on there, and that are cab drivers. They work at grocery stores, and we cast them no matter what their skill level is, and that's how we created the universe.
But kind of based on look, like this person seems peculiar.
We would audition them too, but Tim and I knew exactly what we want growing up watching these things. It's like we did not want beautiful people from LA to be in our universe. They just did not fit. We were like we didn't want young comics to be in our world. It was a lot of older men that we worked with, because we wanted that feeling of something different and this alternate universe that is not everything else you see on TV that like bores you.
There's always, if somebody makes it really big, they'll tell you I failed for 20 years and then I turned out to be, Samuel L. Jackson or something. And I always think, well, that's keeping a lot of these fringe people hanging around long past. And I think that's sad, but then you guys turn and give them a job.
Well, I keep saying, I say it's like, it is a job. They are working, and we pay them. And a lot of them go on to do it for other people. And David Liebehart, who's always used to do songs for our show, and he's got a touring career out of it. Like he plays he was in Australia like a few months ago. Like they work, and it's it's what they do, and it brings people enjoyment. So
yeah, it does. And I mean, it's a unique thing, just like being beautiful is a unique thing, so that's all part of it. But I think it's amazing that they were able to find that place with you, because you guys, I think, have taken it to a laughing with us type thing.
Yeah. There's a guy that we love, and his name's Barry Stem. And he was a background actor on our show, and we heard him talking to the crew, and it was like, we have to get him in front of the camera. He was an old grip, so he would talk to you about anything, and it would be so boring, and it would all be self-aggrandizing about who he worked with and this and that. And we're like, we just got to get him on talking. Like, I don't care. We'll build a show around him because I want to hear this guy just spew, and it's so entertaining to us. And I don't know if it's entertaining to anybody else, and he loves it too. He's like, I'll tell you all about the time I worked on MASH. You want to hear what oh man, we used to hang these lights on, and he's just like, okay, we give him a check, and he's like, call me again next time,
Yeah, it's like, that was easy.
Yeah. But it has to fit in the world that you guys created to begin with. And you can that's just a feel this person belongs. Let's go to the next question over here.
The next question is from Ben.
Hey guys, big fan as well. Which celebrity do you wish you had on the show, and did you have a character or bit written in mind for them?
We've always wanted like Christopher Guest or David Byrne, both the people that Tim mentioned. They don't really do part or Larry David. You know, those guys just don't do that kind of thing.
I think we used to think about that, and we've gotten to work with so many amazing people. I mean, almost everybody that you could not, I mean, you know, like Will Ferrell, all these like big comedy guys and actors and stuff. But it's when it comes to like, Will, you know, Christopher Guest wants to do your show, that would give me more stress than anything else, you know? And it's almost better just to like, everyone can do their own things, and it's less about, you know, collecting famous people than it used to be. It's just like, you know, give us the best, you know. I love working with Will Forte, for example, or John Riley, because like we have a real chemistry, and it's fun to do the work with them. It's fun to write for them. It's fun to see what they do with it. So give us the people that we're comfortable with, instead of giving me like you know, sleepless nights before the next day, being like, oh, what if they hate us?
John C. Reilly was that was an amazing thing for me to see him want to go in that direction, because he is one of the best dramatic actors in America. And I saw him and Philip Seymour Hoffman do True West, and it scared the shit out of everybody in the audience. And then to see him turn around and go as far silly with you guys as he goes, it's a pretty remarkable thing to do.
It is. I mean, he's such a fan. He's such a fan of silly stuff and such a fan of comedy, and we have a great relationship. Like I said, he's just so talented and so willing to go to the darkest or weirdest places, you know.
Yeah. My favorite story about this is that when he started to do Brule, it got so popular that when he started promoting his other movies, the first interview question would be like, okay, tell me about Dr. Steve Brule. What's his problem? Who is he?
Yeah.
And like John's like, God, now Brule is too big. Like he just It's like this experiment that went wild.
Yeah, because I'm sure that he didn't think that while he's out doing a Paul Anderson thing, that somebody was going to bring that up to him.
Yeah, well, his whole rule now is he sticks with the story that's not him. And that's okay, great.
Just another guy.
Yeah.
Playing that. But how did you guys hook up with him? How did that even?
We when we did a cartoon called Tom Goes to the Mayor, and we sent him the script. And I actually ran into him at a bowling birthday party later that week, and we had a mutual friend, and I was a big fan of his, and said, "Did you get that script?" And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna." It reminded him to check it out, but then he read it, and he was like, he's like, I think he had made the sort of decision to try to steer towards some comedy, and he was like, "I've been reading a lot of comedy scripts, and this stupid cartoon script you guys sent me was like the funniest one of them all." So he came in and did it, and we right away like kind of clicked together, and we had this dinky little office with a bunch of hipsters and hoodies, you know, working there, and he looked around like, this is kind of a cool vibe, like, where are your bosses? You know, who's running the show here?
I couldn't believe it. It was like anarchy. It was fun.
But I think those kind of things that have happened with you guys before, because even musically, no one knows, and I know you just had a new album out, no one knows how much you're goofing and how good it is, and then there's musicians who are like, no, this is really strong stuff, and that's
nice.
There's always that line of, we don't ever know whether you guys are goofing or serious.
This is a whole con job right now.
It's not even
well, the musicians are always the first to get it. I mean, we've like our fans were always the rock guys first and foremost, right? They were always like guys in bands, and so I don't know what it is, but we connect with them.
Yeah, we were always growing up like watching like David Lynch films, or like watching old just strange clips where you're like, I don't know, I need to figure this out. It's a mystery. We were like so attracted to that's when we started making this stuff, that was a part of it. It was like, we like that you don't know if this is a professional actor, if this guy's an actor playing this person. It's fun. It's like, you know, when we first made the show, we got a lot of questions. We're like, who is this guy? Is he like mentally okay? Is he, you know, like, what's going on here?
But don't you feel like that's creeped into the news now? Like, it's like sometimes I'm watching CNN and it feels closer to Tim and Eric.
Yes.
Yeah.
than-
Oh man, Rob Goldstone.
Yeah.
I mean, Rob Goldstone. You guys
Yes.
have seen this guy. I was showing Eric the other day, showing him pictures. I'm like, this is somebody's up the stairs writing a script
Yeah.
based on one of
Yeah.
our episodes.
He really is one of your characters, and they gave Rob Goldstone is the guy who hooked up the Russians with Don Jr. And then he's got a rock and roll background,
Right.
and they said that he went to Ethiopia to deliver the food and all for that Hands Across America. And when he was there, he gained 7 pounds. And I'm like, that's a fucking Tim and Eric joke.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
can't be real.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But it does, and I'm not blaming you guys for the world today, but there was foreshadowing.
Yes, there was.
Yeah. Next question.
The next question is from Jim. From Jim.
Did you do anything unique with the press kit you gave to Bob Odenkirk?
I think you must know the answer to that question. Seems like a loaded question,
Yeah.
doesn't it? It seems like you wouldn't just ask that question out of the blue.
It's like a corporate question. Yeah, we put headshots. We took pictures of us in old grandma sweaters with lots of cats and roses around us. And then we signed them, and then we invoiced Bob like $200 like for an unsolicited package. And that like cracked him up. And when we met with Bob, we saw our invoice like tacked on his wall, and we are like, oh yeah, he liked it. So
But I would imagine, like, even that story may have some of your edgier fans thinking that one day it'll be Tim and Eric and Clyde. Like, I imagine some of your fans feel like they should be with you.
Definitely. And I mean, I get that feeling because when you fall in love with a kind of comedy or a certain voice, you feel like they're in your head, you know, and they're like, they get you, and you know, and it's such a close, they can see how not easy it was for us, but how it's possible to get
Right.
where we are, and because you can find out about it, and we have been very lucky, but we worked hard, and but yeah, I had that experience with, like, as a kid watching Mystery Science Theater and being like, God, these guys are just, they think the way I think, and why can't I could do that. I could sit there and make fun of these movies. And so, yeah, and we meet those kids all the time who come up to us, and they want to hang out. And we're like,
Right.
oh, I don't really want to hang out with you. Yeah. I've got to go home and go to bed.
Yeah, because you're like, I'm glad you're a big fan, but I also don't want you to be Mark David Chapman.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is there advice to give young people? Is there anything other than keep swinging? Because the idea that you guys did with Odenkirk probably wouldn't work, 99 out of,
now it's hard. I mean, now it's easier because people can send us links of things,
Right.
which is like, we didn't have that ability, and we've sort of made it our policy that if people send us stuff, we'll look at it, like, because we got so lucky doing that. But 99% of the time, these people aren't putting any effort into it. They're literally will hand us a DVD that says "my shitty film" on it in a Sharpie.
Sorry.
It's like, sorry. Yeah,
this should have been better.
yeah. Yeah. So our advice, what we did is the advice that we give is like, we made this like really nice package. It looked good. You want to look at it. You want to open it up. You want to like that's kind of our style.
Yeah.
It's like, even if it's the stupidest thing, it looks like this big production. It's,
Yeah, the advice is like pretty applicable to everything in life. It's like, be professional, be polite, and be respectful. All those things are real things that
Right.
help you out. when you're trying to, and do find the people that you admire and seek their help, because sometimes they'll help you. We've helped people. We've elevated people up when we could, and try to do something that no one else is doing, or try to make sure your voice is your voice and not somebody, you're not just copying something.
Well, I notice now, too, everybody tries to catch someone famous on Twitter. And that would have never, I mean, if you told me that you could reach some of these celebrities that I loved when I was a kid,
Right.
I never would have believed it in a million years. And now it looks like young people expect an answer back right away.
Yes, the stars have fallen down
Yes.
to the lower atmosphere.
Right. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
We like when I was younger, you would just think that Mick Jagger was in a castle
Right.
somewhere.
Yeah,
You
right.
know, you wouldn't
Yeah.
even think of him as a real person.
Yeah.
And now I just see people and they're like yelling. I tweeted to you 3 times.
Right.
And you haven't responded.
Right.
And I know that you're having like a burger at
Well,
your
That's
house.
the problem.
You're
Is,
Snapchatting.
yeah, because
Yeah.
we go the same way. We share too much too.
Yeah.
You know, because especially when we're on the road, which we are now, is because there's so much idle time. You're like, oh, I'm gonna take a picture of
Bored.
this water bottle.
Yeah.
Show a video of me throwing this water bottle to Eric as a
You
game.
literally did.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, I know that you got a new wine out,
Yes.
and there was some people who were thinking this was part of a joke
Yeah.
because you've done wine jokes for.
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to convince people that it's actually a good thing. But it started from a joke. It started from John C. Reilly's character, Dr. Steve Brule. He did a bit called Sweet Berry Wine, where we would go into every restaurant or bar, like the bartender would be like, "Would you like some sweet berry wine?" Because they got that joke. So we decided to make a wine, and then within that time, I got really into wine and food. So we decided to make it really good. So now we have a line of wine. So it's my job to tell people that it's good. Yeah.
It is
It's
good
not just
after
piss.
all. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
piss.
yeah,
Keep
yeah.
your name off it, and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
But the food thing is real for you as well.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
just got way into it, traveled around the world, like investigating culture, and I feel like wine is the same thing. It's like a real kind of can see, history in that. So this little side project I love.
Is that how you and Aziz bonded?
Yeah. Before we started working together, we were just like food fanatics. We just kind of came up together that way as friends.
And there's that show, of course, blew up
Yeah.
right away, and you're directing
Yeah.
a lot on that show.
Yeah, I directed 6 episodes over the last 2 seasons. Now I produce it. I'm kind of just in there writing with Aziz and working on new stuff.
I was watching this year, particularly the first couple episodes when you were in Italy, and I'm like, how did something on Netflix look this good now? Like it was, I mean, just remember when you guys first started putting out stuff, you're buffering, and you couldn't see it, and people would send you stuff like, I can't wait for this. And now I'm watching something gorgeous through my PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's blowing me away.
It is. It's crazy. I was watching Game of Thrones last night and being like, God, TV has gotten really good.
Yeah.
Like it looks crazy. It's like,
Yeah.
you don't need to go see the movies anymore.
Well, most adults aren't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's really
I have to
not.
tell you,
Yeah.
the War for the Planet of the Apes,
Yeah.
fantastic.
You loved it?
You loved it. It's like the closest thing you could. I don't know what it would have been like going to Disney World when it first Disneyland. It's so fantastic what they can do. I'm not kidding you.
people don't believe
I
it.
know. I'm so high on apes right now.
Tim invested all of his money in
like,
this new film.
I'm gonna watch apes talk.
Yeah.
Cool.
You really are the boy who cried wolf because everyone's like, yeah, Planet of the Apes,
know.
right? No, you're like, no.
I like one. I see one movie a year. It's
Yeah.
an ape. It's the Planet of the Apes movie.
But it is fairly stunning if you compare that, what it just looks like, to the original.
I know the masks they're
Yeah,
wearing.
the mask.
Yeah.
And people just like, you're like, hey, the ape mask isn't moving.
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right, next question.
The next question is from BJ.
Oh yeah. I would never. By the way, no offense to you, but
Oh, I'm offended.
I would never go with BJ. There's too
What
many
are you trying to
negative
say?
connotations. What's your first name? What's the B stand for?
Benjamin.
That's fine. Go by Ben. That's just an idea.
Benjay.
Just a suggestion.
You would suggest Ben J.
Ben J. Yeah.
All right, I'll consider.
You know what BJ means, right?
Does it mean something?
Yes, it does. It means blowjob. All right. What's your question?
How do you guys deal with stress?
By taking it out on you.
Was that your actual question? You wanted to know how they deal with stress.
That's probably not effectively.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's- It's bottled up and causing cancer right now. It's disease. I feel like full diseased under the skin.
I think exercise makes me feel better if I can walk for 30 minutes or do something like, physical. It generally does work. I don't ever want to.
Yeah.
But
I feel like our live show, like we do a 2.5-hour show that is like we're running, sweating, being silly. Like to me, I'm so stressed about the show because I have to remember all these lines and stuff. But then once I'm out there performing, I feel like it does relax me in a weird way. The
2.5 hours, though? Don't you feel
well,
like you're
it's a
giving
lot
them
of
too much?
It's a lot of video.
Too much, yeah.
It's not 2.5 hours of strict dancing.
Yeah. It's paced right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this, you're playing these big venues now, but you still have that connection with your audience like you were playing smaller venues.
Yeah.
I always think like there are certain right levels of fame that you want to have, and you guys are just about there where you have your audience. But unlike, I don't like the Friends cast,
Right.
not everyone is going to recognize you. You can still move around.
Well, that's changed for you probably more since
Master
Master
of
None.
Nuns.
Yeah.
You're getting the quality of people that,
Yes.
that aren't always the best.
Yeah. If I could get a height reduction.
Yeah.
I just wanna
Well, that's
take
the
out
other
a
thing. He stands out like a sore thumb.
foot lower, I'd be fine.
But you also now, it seems like there's more performers who are trying to look like you. And I want to point any of them out, but it seems like you have now become a look.
Well, I think it started with Galifianakis, like bigger boy with the beard,
Yeah,
kinda
beard.
shaggy.
Beard with glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
And now it's drifted.
I'm flattered.
Yeah, now it's
It's a
drifted
handsome look.
all the way down to open mic comics. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I hope you really need those glasses.
Yeah. yeah.
All right, next question over here.
Our last question is from Eric.
Oh, Eric, you have a
great.
question for me?
Yes, Tim Heidecker. When did you?
He
guys.
didn't want to ask you.
Yeah.
This is,
Will you marry me?
Yeah. It's like it being at a ballpark.
For the Celery Man sketch, was it written by you guys, or did Paul Rudd do a lot of the improv?
There's actually really great behind-the-scenes footage that's on YouTube that is on one of the deleted scene or one of the behind-the-scenes extras on the DVD, and you see us giving it was written, but all our scripts were kind of just like approximations of what we were going to do, and you see in there us like feeding him lines and writing it on the spot, which is a lot of times what we do is sort of, which must be annoying for some actors, but if somebody's just off camera going, say give me horse times 3, and they're like, what does that mean? Give me horse times 3, and whatever, and then Rudd was really gracious to just say whatever came out of our mouths. He then said immediately after.
It takes a lot of trust on his part that he was a fan of ours. Like some actors would just not say no. They'd be like, I don't do line reads, but the energy of what we had it's literally him in a green screen on it with nothing else. Or a computer. So he's like, please help me. He's like, just give me. Same with
Tell me
Dr.
what to say.
Brule. It's like he welcomes us improvising in the moment, which is so fun.
Well, he's also a tough guy to understand because, again, he's got the rom-com looks. His life should be just simple, going from one to the other, and then he'll take some very bizarre chances.
He's really funny.
Yeah, I think a lot of these guys come from a place that they love comedy so much. Like he was in this early Stella shorts doing crazy stuff with Michael Ian Black and stuff. I think they love doing wild stuff, but they have families and stuff, so they're doing the big movies.
And we'll take him because how many people checked out Tim and Eric for this first time because of Paul Rudd?
Yeah.
Because like, I'll watch this, and we probably lost 80% of them. But I mean, it's great to have that they give them their notoriety to us to use.
Well, when you guys started working with Zach, where was his career? Was it still pretty fringy?
Yeah, it was
at the time.
Yeah, I mean, he had some kind of early success, I guess, with a talk show but. So we just knew him from from like Largo and like the LA comedy, UCB and stuff. We just thought he was hilarious, And so we had him in our first season of Awesome Show and flew out to New York because he was working here, and he was, he immediately elevated our stupid idea into something really funny, and we're, just like a perfect and nice little chemistry between us.
And to have that again with all these people, this loose affiliation where you don't have to do it all the time,
Mhm.
Yeah.
over and over. So when you get together, it is somewhat,
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
Tim was kind of saying, like, when you first start out making something, you need these names. Like we had Jack Black. Like Bob got us Jack Black to make the pilot of our show. You need to use these names to get a project done. It's like we have this guy's vouching for us, and now I feel like we're finally at a place where people know us versus
Sure.
like we don't need to use those big names anymore to kind of put out new stuff.
But it felt like that for a while, right? It felt like that even past the pilot.
It was a bit of both. It helped to have to work with great people and to elevate the exposure, but it was both. We weren't doing it just to suck off of Hollywood nectar to from a cynical place. It was great to work with a lot of those people, but it did
It's
help
amazing.
rise things up.
Well, something else I think has changed, and that is a kind of divisive thing. And I know that when you did I Am a Cuck, which I don't know how light that you felt that it was, but it was so funny because it is where we are
Right.
in this country right now.
Yeah, I mean, that just came from months and months of being abused online, really, frankly. I mean, I was cyberbullied for making jokes about the clown that we have as our president now. And which is a form of cyberbullying I just did there. but it was a reaction to being like, that's coming at me in real time. I can go to my garage and within 10 minutes write something, record it, and release it to those people. And it was so fun to just be able to work that quickly and get the reaction immediately. So it's fun to use whatever would have just sat inside of me and festered like stress and just turn that into something that I felt if there were other people getting called names and being abused and being called these terrible names, that they would get a laugh out of it or would feel at least not so alone, or that I was getting it. Everybody's, a lot of people seem to be getting it. So,
But you'd have to think somebody's following you online. They're a fan in some way. And then just because they might disagree with you politically, or did you feel like there
I think
was
it got
some
picked
group-
up by certain people, and then it got spread onto their pages.
Yeah.
And probably just a lot of bots in some farm in Belarus somewhere plugged in.
Because I would have never thought of you guys as political at
Right.
first, but almost everybody is somewhat political now because any opinion suddenly becomes
Yeah,
extreme.
I mean, our stuff was never current events
Mhm.
connected, and it still isn't. But we have different interests. But our stuff was always, I think, satirical and political and critical of American culture, American advertising, and hypocrisy, and all these bigger issues that I think people. It's not just absurd, silly business.
And oddly, you and probably all of us in this room and everybody listening has to work with corporations every day. That thing exists in this country no matter who you. It's not even, debated anymore. And you see that in boardrooms every single time that you show up somewhere.
Yeah, we're lucky that the ad guys, these corporations, were big fans of Awesome Show 10 years ago, and now they have power.
Right.
So we're in a position they're offering us jobs. And we're
Right.
we're like, thank you. Yes,
Is
please.
that fun to go in and do something like that when it can only last a couple days? And like I said, there's so many times that I'll turn around and go, what are they selling anyway? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why not have some fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, for us, it's a job that we get to hire our friends to shoot and be part of the crew and stuff. And yeah, we're not invested emotionally in the content.
Yeah, our dream is like to take a corporate job and like the Absolute Vodka thing, like with Zach Galifianakis, and like twist it into our own. We like steal it. It's more of that Philly vibe again. We're like, we're taking your money, and our fans are still gonna like us because we are making fun of you at the same time. Like, and they're just like, okay, as long
Yeah.
as it gets hits, we'll take the burn on that.
And that is the funny thing about it. Like at the end, I'm like, I can't believe Absolute Vodka is letting that do. But I'm saying
Yeah.
Absolute
You just
Vodka,
said Absolute
yeah,
Vodka,
yeah.
you know, and that always works. I brought this up is when we start this, how wild that 10 years in that you still have this thing. Is there a hope of where to go with this, or you just play it out project by project?
Play it out project by project. For now, it feels we just, like we said, we made some stuff this year that works. I think as soon as we start making stuff that's not that's like we watch the cut and we're like, oh, well, that's not clicking.
That's a miss.
Well,
That'd be the first sign.
I think it would be remiss not to realize how much of an impact of what you guys have done. And when I saw The Comedian,
Comedy.
The comedy, yeah, that's The Comedian is the other one. But when The Comedy came out, I watched it twice because I didn't know whether I liked it or hated it. And that movie follows me around every day in New York. That I just think the city is in the constant change because of. There's been a culture shift. And if you can't do anything, even if that's just the point of any art, to me, is just to have it be there for a while.
Well, thank you. You never said whether you liked it or hated it.
No.
I caught note of that. Just kidding.
But I kind of feel the same
I feel
way.
the same way about it too. I was in it, and I still don't know if I
Yeah.
like it or hate it. But that makes it interesting.
There is never the scene that always stays with me is when you go deep into Brooklyn into a black neighborhood and you're like, yeah, this is pretty great. I'm going to start and bring a lot of my friends around here, and we're going to change this up and spend some money.
It's a little ahead of its time there.
Yeah, it
I
was
guess.
really ahead of its time because everyone always goes, isn't it great how safe the city's going?
Yeah.
And I'm always like, hey, what happened to the people who lived in Spanish Harlem? Where did
Right.
they
Yeah.
go? Did they get moved somewhere? Or, because that is the kind of wave, that generation's wave is what got into Tim and Eric in the first place. And I really do think that it's going to take some time before we decide, did we do good with all this or did we do bad?
Yeah, we'll see.
Were we making fun of the culture or were we responsible?
I think it's time for us to get out when at like 3 a.m. they'll be selling like best of Tim and Eric DVDs on some like Time Life,
Well, guys, it was great to see you, and
Yeah.
congratulations.
Well, thanks,
too,
man.
for
Thanks.
Good
being able to
chat.
pull this off. We'll see you
Thanks
next
for
time.
having us.
Tim and Eric, everybody.
Thank you.
That was great, guys. Really.
Really good.